The last thing I remember before surgery was my mother kissing my forehead and saying, "We love you." When I woke up, she was gone, blocked, deleted, like I never existed. I thought that was the end of my story. But then the surgeon came in, trembling, and handed me an old photograph. "That is your real mother," he said, "and she died of a broken heart, searching for you." My name is Riley Morgan, and 3 months ago, I woke up from surgery to find out that my parents had blocked me on every single app, phone number, and email address we had ever used to talk. But that is not the strangest part. The strangest part is what the surgeon said when he came to check on me the next morning. He pulled up a chair, sat close to my bed, and whispered, "Riley, I know you. I have known you for years. And now I am going to tell you a story that your parents never wanted you to hear." I did not know it then, but that conversation would tear apart everything I believed about my family, my past, and my own name. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Riley Morgan. I am 22 years old. I grew up in a small town called Maple Heights, Ohio. My parents, David and Karen Morgan, were respected people. My father was a financial advisor. My mother was a high school English teacher. We lived in a 2-story house with a white fence and a golden retriever named Gus. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. But perfect families have secrets. And my family's secret was so dark that it took a surgery and a stranger's confession to uncover it. I was born with a rare condition called vascular malformation in my left leg. It is a tangle of blood vessels that did not form correctly. It made my legs swell, hurt, and sometimes turn purple. When I was a child, the doctors said it was manageable. But as I grew older, the pain became unbearable. By the time I was 21, I could not walk without a cane. I could not sleep without crying. My parents always seemed concerned. My mother drove me to every appointment. My father paid for every test. They held my hand during MRIs and rubbed my back when I came home from school crying because the other kids stared at my limp. I loved them. I trusted them. I thought they would do anything for me. So when my doctor in Cleveland said that a new surgical procedure could remove the malformation and save my leg, my parents were the first to say yes. "We will be there every step of the way," my mother said. "You are our daughter," my father said. "Nothing is more important than you." The surgery was scheduled for a Tuesday in September. I remember the morning clearly. The air was cold. The leaves were just starting to turn orange. My father drove me to the hospital. My mother sat in the back seat with me, holding my hand. She was quiet, which was unusual for her. I thought she was just nervous. "Mom," I said, "it is going to be okay. The surgeon is the best in the state." She smiled, but her eyes did not smile. "I know, sweetheart, I know." At the hospital, they gave me a gown and a bracelet with my name on it. Riley Morgan, date of birth, blood type, allergies. I remember looking at that bracelet and thinking how strange it was that 3 plastic letters could sum up a whole person. My parents stayed with me until they wheeled me into the operating room. My father kissed my forehead. My mother squeezed my hand so hard it left marks. "We love you," she said. "I love you too," I said. Then the anesthesia took me under. When I woke up, I was in a white room with beeping machines and the smell of antiseptic. My throat was dry. My leg was wrapped in bandages from hip to ankle. I felt groggy and confused, but the first thing I wanted was to see my parents. I reached for my phone on the side table. The screen was bright. I had 17 messages from friends, 3 from my boss, and 0 from my parents. That was strange, but I thought maybe they were in the cafeteria. Maybe they were talking to the doctor. Maybe they just stepped out. I sent my mother a text. "Mom, I'm awake. Where are you?" The message said delivered. Then it said read, but no reply came. I waited 5 minutes. 10, then I called her. The phone rang once, then went to voicemail. I called my father. Same thing, I tried FaceTime. It did not even ring. A cold feeling started to creep into my chest. I opened my messages again and saw that my mother's contact photo had been replaced with a generic gray icon. That only happens when someone blocks you. No, that could not be right. I checked my father's contact. Same gray icon. I checked Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, blocked everywhere, even Venmo. They had blocked me on Venmo. I started to shake. The machines next to me started beeping faster because my heart rate was climbing. A nurse came in and asked what was wrong. I could not even form words. I just held up my phone and pointed at the screen. The nurse, a kind woman named Darlene, looked confused. Your parents, they left last night, right after your surgery ended. They said they had an emergency at home. They left, my voice was a whisper. They left me here alone, Darlene nodded slowly. They said they would be back, but they haven't called. Do you want me to try to reach them? I shook my head. I already knew what I would find. They were gone. They had waited until I was unconscious, and then they had run away like cowards. That night, I did not sleep. I lay in the hospital bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to understand. What had I done wrong? Was it the money? The surgery was expensive, but my father had good insurance. Was it my leg? Were they tired of taking care of me? Had I been too much of a burden? I thought about my childhood. I thought about all the times I felt like something was off, but could not name it. Like the way my mother never let me do DNA tests for school projects. She always wrote a note saying I had a medical condition that prevented it. Like the way my father kept our family photos in a locked drawer and never displayed them around the house. Like the way they changed our phone numbers twice when I was a teenager and told me it was because of spam callers. I cried until my eyes were swollen. I cried until the nurse brought me a tissue box and a warm blanket. I cried until there were no tears left, and then I just lay there, hollow and empty. The next morning, the surgeon came in for his rounds. I had met him once before the surgery. His name was Dr. Elias Vance. He was in his late 50s, with gray hair and kind brown eyes. He wore round glasses and always had a pen in his pocket. He seemed like the kind of doctor who actually listened to his patients. When he walked into my room that morning, he did not have his usual clipboard or his team of residents. He came alone. He closed the door behind him, which I later learned doctors almost never do. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he pulled up a chair, sat down right next to my bed, and took my hand. Riley, he said, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting. Can you do that for me? I nodded, even though my throat was tight. He took a deep breath. Then he said the words that changed my life forever. Riley, I know you. I have known you for years. Not as a patient, not as a stranger. I have known you since you were a baby, because I am your real father. The room went silent. The beeping of the machine seemed to fade away. I stared at him. I stared at his gray hair, his kind eyes, his round glasses. I tried to find a resemblance. The shape of his jaw, the color of his eyes, something. That is not possible, I whispered. My father is David Morgan. My mother is Karen Morgan. I have a birth certificate. I have pictures. Dr. Vance shook his head slowly. Your birth certificate is a lie. The pictures are a lie. The people you call your parents stole you from me and from your mother when you were 3 days old. My hands started to shake. That is crazy. You are crazy. He did not get angry. He just reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was old, yellowed at the edges. He handed it to me. I unfolded it. It was a photograph of a woman in a hospital bed holding a newborn baby. The woman had my exact same face. The same green eyes, the same curve of the lips, the same red hair, though hers was longer. Next to her stood a younger version of Dr. Vance, beaming with joy. On the back of the photograph, in handwritten ink, it said, Riley Elizabeth Vance, born June 14, 2001, 7 pounds 4 ounces, our miracle. My birthday is June 14th. My middle name is Elizabeth, but my last name has always been Morgan. I looked up at Dr. Vance. Tears were running down his cheeks. Your mother's name was Sarah, he said. Sarah Marie Vance. She was the most beautiful person I have ever known. We tried for years to have a baby, years of treatments, of hope, of heartbreak, and then you came. You were perfect. You were everything. What happened? My voice cracked. Dr. Vance closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were filled with a pain so deep it looked like an ocean. When you were 3 days old, a nurse named Karen came into our room. She said she needed to take you for a hearing test. We trusted her. She had a kind face. She wore a white uniform and a smile. We let her take you out of my arms. He paused. His voice broke. She never brought you back. We searched the entire hospital. We called the police. We called the FBI. But by the time anyone realized what had happened, Karen was already gone. And she was not alone. Her husband, David, was waiting in a stolen car. They had fake IDs, they had a fake birth certificate. They had a whole life planned for you, Riley, a life that did not include us. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Karen, David, my parents? They are not your parents, Dr. Vance said firmly. They are kidnappers. They stole you from me and from Sarah. And then they disappeared. For 22 years, I have been looking for you. I have spent every dollar I had. I have hired private investigators. I have submitted my DNA to every database. I never stopped. But how did you find me? I asked. He pointed at my leg. The vascular malformation. It is genetic. I have the same condition. It is rare, Riley. So rare that only 1 in 50,000 people have it. When I saw your file come across my desk for a surgical consult, I almost fell out of my chair. I knew before I even met you. I requested your medical records. I saw the photographs of your leg. It is identical to mine. He pulled up his pant leg. On his left calf there was a dark purple tangle of veins, the exact same pattern as mine, the exact same shape. I had seen my own leg 1,000 times. I would have recognized that pattern anywhere. Oh my God, I whispered. I did not say anything before the surgery because I was afraid, Dr. Vance continued. I was afraid you would not believe me. I was afraid your kidnappers would find out and run again. I have been watching you for 6 months, Riley, from a distance. I have seen you limp. I have seen you cry in waiting rooms. I have seen you smile at nurses. And every time I wanted to run to you and say, I am your father. I have been looking for you your whole life. Why now? I asked. Why tell me now? Dr. Vance's face hardened. Because your kidnappers blocked you. They abandoned you. They left you alone in a hospital bed after major surgery. That is who they are, Riley. That is what they do. They take what is not theirs, and when it becomes inconvenient, they throw it away. Those words hit me like a punch to the chest. Because he was right. My parents, no, David and Karen, had raised me. They had fed me and clothed me and taken me to school. But they had also isolated me from other family. I never met my grandparents. I never had cousins or aunts or uncles. Every holiday was just the 3 of us. Every birthday was just a small cake and a single present. They told me that the rest of our family was dead or lived far away. I believed them because I had no reason not to. But now I understood. They kept me away from other people because they were afraid someone would recognize me. They changed my name. They moved to a small town where no one asked questions. They built a cage made of love and lies, and I had lived inside it my whole life. Where is my real mother? I asked. Where is Sarah? Dr. Vance looked down at his hands. His shoulders started to shake. Sarah died 6 years after you were taken, he said. She never stopped looking for you. She never stopped hoping. But the grief was too much. She stopped eating. She stopped sleeping. She just faded away. Her last word was your name. Riley. She said it over and over until she could not speak anymore. I started to cry. Not the quiet tears from the night before, but loud, ugly sobs that came from somewhere deep inside me. I cried for the mother I never knew. I cried for the father who had spent 22 years searching. I cried for the little girl who had been stolen from her crib and given to strangers. Dr. Vance, my father, climbed onto the hospital bed and held me. He wrapped his arms around me, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was home. We stayed like that for a long time. The machines beeped softly in the background. The sun came through the blinds and made patterns on the floor. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. The anger was still there. The confusion was still there. But underneath it all, there was a tiny spark of something new. Hope. What do we do now? I asked after a long time. He pulled back and looked me in the eyes. That is up to you. We can go to the police. We can press charges. David and Karen, Morgan committed a federal crime. They can go to prison for the rest of their lives, but I will not force you. You have been controlled your whole life. From now on, every choice is yours. I thought about it. I thought about the woman who called herself my mother, who read me bedtime stories and made me soup when I was sick. I thought about the man who called himself my father, who taught me to ride a bike and helped me with math homework. They were not evil in every moment. They were kind sometimes. They were loving sometimes. But they were also liars. They were thieves. They had stolen me from a family that wanted me, and they had let my real mother die of a broken heart. I thought about all the birthdays I celebrated without knowing that somewhere, a woman named Sarah was crying over a cake she baked for a daughter who would never come home. I thought about all the times I complained about my parents being strict, not knowing that they were strict because they were terrified of being caught. I thought about all the years I could have had with Dr. Vance, with Sarah, with a family that wanted me not because they took me, but because I was theirs. I made my choice. I want to press charges, I said, but I want to see them first. I want to look them in the eyes and ask them why. Dr. Vance nodded. I will arrange it. The next week was a blur of police interviews, DNA tests, and legal paperwork. The FBI reopened the cold case from 2001. Detectives went to Maple Heights and arrested David and Karen Morgan at their home. They did not resist. They did not even look surprised. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment for 22 years. I was still in the hospital when the detectives came to take my statement. I told them everything. The surgery, the blocking, the silence, the years of isolation, the locked photo albums, the fake DNA excuses, every small detail that suddenly made sense in a terrible new light. The detective, a woman named Martinez, listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "You are very brave, Riley. Do you know that?" I did not feel brave. I felt broken, but I nodded anyway. Then I asked to see David and Karen face to face. They brought them to a small room at the county jail. A thick glass window separated us. David sat on one side. Karen sat next to him. They looked older than I remembered. Smaller, frailer. Karen was crying. David just stared at the floor. I picked up the phone on my side of the glass. Karen picked up hers. David did not move. "Hello, Riley," Karen said. Her voice was shaky. "Don't call me that," I said. "My name is Riley Vance. It always has been." Karen flinched like I had slapped her. "We raised you. We loved you. We gave you everything." "You stole me," I said. "You took me from my mother's arms when I was 3 days old. You let her die wondering where I was. You let my father search for me for 22 years. And then, when I needed you most, you blocked me and ran away like cowards." David finally looked up. His eyes were red. "We were scared," he said. "The surgery was going to reveal the truth. The DNA tests, the genetic markers, we knew the doctor would figure it out, so we left." "You left me alone," I said, "in a hospital bed. After cutting open my leg, I could have died. I could have had complications. You did not even leave a note." Karen started sobbing. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. We were young. We were desperate. We could not have children of our own. And when I saw you in that nursery, so tiny and so perfect, I could not help myself." "You could not help yourself," I repeated. "You stole a human being. You destroyed 2 lives. And you are telling me you could not help yourself." David slammed his hand on the table. "We are your parents. We raised you. Does that mean nothing?" I looked at him for a long time. Then I looked at Karen. And in that moment, I felt something I had never felt before. Not anger, not sadness, something colder. "You are not my parents," I said quietly. "You are my kidnappers, and you are going to prison for what you did." I hung up the phone. I walked out of the room. I did not look back. The trial was 6 months later. David and Karen Morgan pleaded guilty to federal kidnapping charges. They were sentenced to 15 years in prison each. The judge called their crime an act of profound cruelty and said that they had robbed a child of her identity and a mother of her life. I sat in the front row of the courtroom. Next to me sat Dr. Elias Vance, my real father. He held my hand the entire time. During a break, Karen asked to speak to me privately. The guards brought her to a small conference room. She was in an orange jumpsuit. Her hair had gone gray. She looked nothing like the woman who had raised me. "I know you hate me," she said. "I don't hate you," I said. "I don't feel anything for you anymore. That is worse." She nodded slowly. "I deserve that. I deserve worse, but I want you to know something. The day I took you, I told myself it was because I wanted to be a mother. But that was a lie. The truth is, I was jealous. I saw Sarah holding you and I thought, why does she get everything? Why does she get the baby, the husband, the perfect life? So I took you to punish her. And then I kept you because I was too scared to give you back." I stared at her. "You ruined my mother's life because you were jealous?" "Yes," she whispered. "And I have regretted it every single day, not enough to give you back, but enough to hate myself." I stood up. "Thank you for telling me the truth, but I don't forgive you. Maybe one day I will, but not today." I walked out. My father was waiting in the hallway. He put his arm around me. "Are you okay?" "No," I said, "but I will be." After the sentencing, we went back to his house. It was a small but warm home in Cleveland, filled with photographs of Sarah. Photographs of their wedding, photographs of their life before me, and photographs of me as a newborn wrapped in a yellow blanket. There was a room that had been prepared for me. It had a bed, a desk, and a bookshelf. On the wall, there was a quote painted in soft blue letters: "You are not a mistake, you are a miracle." My father had painted it himself. "I always hoped," he said. "Every day I hoped." I hugged him. "I am here now. That is what matters." Over the next few months, I went to therapy. I needed help processing everything. My therapist, Dr. Chen, told me that what I was feeling was normal. The grief, the anger, the confusion. She said that I had lost two families, the one I thought I had and the one I never got to know. "But you are building a new one," she said, "and that is brave." I also started reading Sarah's letters. There were dozens of them, stored in a wooden box that my father kept under his bed. She wrote one every year on my birthday. The first one was written when I was 1 year old. The last one was written just before she died. In that last letter, her handwriting was shaky. She was weak, but her words were strong. "My dearest Riley," she wrote, "I don't know if you will ever read this. I don't know if you are alive or happy or even think of me. But I want you to know that I loved you from the moment I felt you kick inside me. I loved you when you cried. I loved you when you slept. I loved you when they took you away. And I will love you until the last breath leaves my body. Please, if you ever find your way home, know that your mother never stopped searching, never stopped hoping, never stopped loving you. Forever yours, Mom." I read that letter 10 times. Each time I cried. But each time, the tears felt a little lighter. A little less like grief and a little more like love. It has been 1 year since that day. My leg healed well from the surgery. I still have a scar, but I can walk without a cane. I can run, which I never thought I would do. Every morning, I go for a jog with my father. We talk about everything. We talk about nothing. We laugh. We cry. We make up for 22 years of lost time. I have changed my name legally to Riley Elizabeth Vance. I have visited Sarah's grave and left flowers. I have read her letters to the headstone, just in case she could hear me. I have told her about my life, my dreams, my father. I have promised her that I will live well, that I will be happy, that I will carry her memory with me every single day. I do not hate David and Karen anymore. Hate would be like drinking poison and expecting them to die. They are in prison, they are paying for what they did, and I am free. Sometimes, late at night, I still have nightmares. I dream of being taken from a warm room into a cold car. I dream of a woman with a kind face who is not kind at all. I dream of a mother I never knew, reaching for me from a distance I cannot cross. But then I wake up, and my father is in the next room, and the coffee is brewing, and the sun is rising over Cleveland, and I remember that I am not lost anymore. I am found. Here is the lesson I learned. The lesson I want every person who hears my story to take with them. Family is not made by blood alone, but it is also not made by lies. Real family is built on truth, on trust, on the willingness to be honest even when the truth hurts. David and Karen loved me in their own broken way, but their love was built on a foundation of theft and deception. And a house built on sand will always fall. My real father spent 22 years searching for me because he refused to give up hope. He did not steal me, he did not lie to me, he waited, he believed. And when the time came, he told me the truth, even though he was afraid I would reject him. That is what love looks like, not control, not possession, but patience. Truth, and the courage to let someone go if that is what they choose. I chose to stay. My name is Riley Vance. I am 23 years old. I have a father who never stopped looking for me. I have a mother who watches over me from wherever souls go after they leave this world. And I have a future that belongs to no one but me.